I actually can't imagine what life would be like not being a Christian, and so as a woman and as a human, my faith inspires me completely.
So my faith in Judaism, it's not really faith, because for me faith is only one element, it's a belief element, and much more about belief and action and values all together, and culture and language and literature and land. So it's part of the whole package, and it sustains me in all the different messages and techniques almost of religious life or Jewish life. Rituals to mark joy, rituals to mark sadness, prayers, language. So it sustains me because it is the pumping blood through my body.
I think that's what faith is about, really, about kindness, goodness.
I always feel that it challenges me more than anything else. I think some of the most unsettling questions are to do with theology and religion.
I think the thing that inspires me about my faith as a woman is the very activist message of Judaism. And I love the fact that we are meant to be doing things. It's not pontificating, it's doing. So you're thinking about why you're doing it, but it's very action driven. And I think the woman bit in me is very action driven. And sometimes I get frustrated by things too much in the air. What I like very much about Judaism is that it's about what do you do, how do you treat other people, what should you be doing, what does God demand of you to do justly, righteousness. And I really take that on, hopefully, as a driving force. I don't know if I deliver it, but it's important to me. So that's how it inspires me as a woman.
We have our Imam Ali, alayhi salam, who is the Prophet's cousin. He has said in his book Nahj al-Balagha that we are either brothers in faith or we are equal in humanity. So we have to treat each other with justice and fair play.
In the Sikh faith and in a number of other faiths, you are taught that you have a voice and you can use that voice and you should use that voice when possible.
I think one of the things, the quotes I really like about Judaism is the phrase "Tikkun Olam," which means to repair the world. And I think that's what I like about that. It's got so many meanings. It can either be in a kind of ecological sense that you should look after the world and keep it as you found it, but also in a sense of building justice and social justice and all those sorts of values. That's what resonated very much.
Has my faith inspired me as a woman? Absolutely. And I think we all need to, all people, but particularly women, if you're talking about women's issues, have their consciousnesses raised.
For myself and the women I've met, I think it really empowers them. Really talk about how it's helped them, how they really believe that it's made a difference. It's brought them into touch with people who support them. And I think we're all looking for that when we have problems or we have, even good times. You want to be with people who have the same kind of belief structure as you. So I think for me, it definitely empowers.
Well, I think that religious life is an empowering thing, particularly for women, because so many women are those who join synagogues and drive that whole family agenda. I think that sexism or misogyny or homophobia can be wrapped up in religion, but they're not integral to religion. So I think, but I do think that there is a problem in the fact that religions, particularly the older religions, come from a rely on and love tradition, and of course so therefore are taking on older traditional values, which are often sexist. So to be able to both rely on tradition and to love tradition and to be fed by tradition, but also to be breaking out from past patterns such as sexism is really our challenge.
But when I look at all the major religions in the world, women hold a lesser place and are given lesser status. And when I read Genesis 1:27-28, it talks about male and female being created equally as part of the whole of humanity. And I say there's nothing between us. We're not two separate species. We're created together and loved and blessed by God.
It does, having faith, it gave me belief in myself, because the two are very much intertwined. And I feel that when you're in a male-dominated environment, if you don't believe in who you are and you don't believe that you have the ability to succeed because of that faith and because of the belief in yourself, you can't make it. You know, there have been some very, very difficult times in my career history where I've had to make difficult choices, and it was only that belief that's kept me going. And you are, you know, you're very much alone. You're very much, you know, you have to cope with decision making. You have to cope with different aspects of the job and your personal life, and it does help. It does help. And without it, I couldn't have done it.
I would simply not be doing what I would be doing now if it hadn't been for my faith driving me to see issues from a Christian point of view, that I said, all right, this is what I then have to do, which is get involved in the campaign.
Well, all kinds of challenges. I mean, there's still, as you know, a substantial gender pay gap between women. There's still a lot of domestic violence that women suffer from, and there's just general kinds of sort of unpleasant stereotypes, and there's a continuing theme of women being portrayed and featured in media and so on, according to these really unfortunate stereotypes.
That is the biggest challenge for women, to be taken seriously. Of course, there are lots of them who are taken seriously, but for those, most women get tied up in the upbringing of the children and the family, and so they don't have the kind of time to develop their own expertise and arguments in order to be heard. So I think, you know, that is really the challenge for women, is that we have to get them to be taken seriously.
And I think one of the biggest things that all the major faiths have to come out against is any violence against women. And I think that's I've seen interfaith dialogue getting behind ending violence against women, and I think that's something huge and major, and of course will have knock-on effect for men and boys and girls, and not just women.
Well, extreme examples of poverty, of far the poorest people in the land, people are the most oppressed, the ones who have to be demands every day to get water, are, as you know, women. And it's sort of, unfortunately, inequality there is in this society that is magnified.
That I was speaking to a friend yesterday itself, and she was saying that there are so many child brides. Now these girls, they're hardly at the adolescent stage and they're married off. They don't get the equal opportunity like the boys to study, educate themselves, and before they know, they have a family to look after. If everything goes well, fine, but sometimes the husbands desert them, and they not only have to fend for themselves, they have to look after the children also. But if they're not educated, it works against them. And it's a very sad and sorry situation.
We also know that right across the world, actually, if women were able to be paid employment at the rates that they want to be paid employment, then it would be boost their life chances, their families, and the whole of Commonwealth society. In the Arab world, I think only 28% of women are in the workforce. In the USA, if you had women earning at the rates that men earn, it would boost the whole of the GDP by about 9%.
Well, I mean, for me, the sort of absolute silver bullet as far as women are concerned in the developing world is education. And I mean, there's a direct correlation between education and contraception. You know, the more educated women are, the less likely they are to have far too many children, and that they can bring up those children more effectively. So, you know, the big, obvious way of changing things is through education. And, you know, more girls should be in primary school.
They say the hand that rocks the cradle is mightier than the sword. So women, when they know, women have a habit that when they hear something, they go back to the family and they tell their children about it, their husbands. So it works in concentric circles. So it's just not only in the family, the neighbors come to know about it, and the community. So the message is spread across the board as such.
Women's causes, women's issues, women's concerns can be one of those absolute unifying things, so that you can meet a woman from an entirely different religion and somehow you do have something in common. Many women in different religions have been through similar experiences actually of having maybe their contributions not recognised, their voices dulled, and have undergone some of the same arguments and discussions within their own faiths.
If faith can enable women to do what they otherwise wouldn't have done, if faith can enter spaces that men who are in control of women in those spaces will say yes, whereas under circumstances they would say no, if women have more power, more individual power, and they're not under the control of men, which they are in so much of the world, then, and faith can unlock that because it's another type of authority which might trump male authority, patriarchal society, then that's good. It might also be used to reinforce patriarchy.
Well, yes, absolutely. I was going to say that Zedek, I think the work that Zedek does in the developing world is a wonderful example of using Jewish values in order to help, aid and inspire people in completely different backgrounds. It's a wonderful example.
One of the great examples that I like to tell people about is the work that's happening in Sierra Leone. Now, Sierra Leone is a remarkable country, having come out of a couple of decades of civil war, with a people who are really doing their very, very best to grow their country, to build it, to make it something to be very proud of. There are about 6 million people in Sierra Leone, just over 100 doctors in the entire country, but there are churches and mosques everywhere. So the Tony Blair Faith Foundation has been supporting Muslim and Christian leaders who then recruit people in their own congregations, who then train others. So it's like a cascade system to go around and fill in some of those gaps, to be trusted voices telling people about the anti-malaria messages and how they can protect their families. Now, in 6 short months, 5,300 volunteers have been recruited through these Christian-Muslim collaborative networks. They have visited 135,000 households. That's about 500,000 people altogether who've had these messages about how to save lives by taking anti-malaria techniques and messages on board. In the year, I think we're going to reach about 15% of the entire population of the country. And that is a very, very concrete example of Christians and Muslims working together to say, here is a problem. If we collaborate, we can do something for our people.
A while back I had to deal with a rape of a lady who, due to her religious beliefs, didn't actually report it as a rape. It was reported as a burglary. Because she didn't want her community to know, she didn't want her husband to know what had gone on, she actually reported it incorrectly. When I got there, she wasn't the same faith as myself. When I got there, I realised that there was more to the investigation than it originally appeared. And through linking in with another female officer of that particular faith, I was able to reassure and able to actually get the true story. And what has young boys now, young men, they've grown up, but we have now got a successful prosecution where that person is going to be punished for what he did. And even at the time, we arranged for counselling for her and her children. So I would suggest that maybe that's not the kind of story that people want to hear, but the working across the faith, it does hit into those grassroots kind of examples.
I think interfaith is hugely important. It's not just a nice aside, actually it really defines how it is that people of different nations and cultures and belief systems live with each other. It can be the best antidote to extremism in my experience. I mean, the number of extremists are tiny, but they're very well motivated, they're organised, they're very, very vocal, and they're actually pretty well funded. Part of that narrative of extremism is to say the other person disrespects you, the person with a different religion doesn't respect you, you need to fight back. And actually interfaith is a proof that that isn't the case. So the more that we can do to try to shine a spotlight on those people of different religions who are working very well together to try to change the world for the better, the more powerful that counter-narrative is.
Interfaith is very important because, as I said, when we meet people from different faith, we realize there may be a lot of differences, but there's a lot of common ground. Don't we all need good family background, good home, sustenance, good employment? There's so much in common between us. So it's not just the differences, and what differences there are, we celebrate the differences and we learn to share our views, respect each other.
Unity doesn't have to be unison, and I think we have different voices and different perspectives of what life is about, the meaning of life, and the important things, but I think there's so much we agree on.
But for me, it's not about so much discussing together, actually doing things together. I think projects together is the way forward, because we can do an enormous amount of, Judaism does this, and Christianity does this, and did you know this, and Islam is this, and Hinduism, very interesting. But nothing really happens. It might get over your initial fears, and you might think, gosh, isn't Sharia law like Jewish law? And, that's interesting and makes you feel closer, but actually I need more than feelings. I need action.
If you read one of the great prophets like Isaiah, he talks about justice and that wonderful image of taking swords and shields and banging them into farming implements. And I love that image because it's taking implements of destruction and turning them into tools whereby people can grow things, and grow things in a time of peace. And there was a wonderful meaning to the word shalom. And it doesn't just mean peace as an absence of war and conflict. It's talking about peace where people can thrive, where there is abundance, where people can celebrate, where families can survive. And I think this, idea in communities is how can we realize shalom